Good afternoon and welcome to our presentation, Go the Extra Mile for Customers, Drive Digital Innovation in OEM and the Aftermarket. My name is Emma Henderson and I am the producer/managing editor for Aftermarket News and Counterman and the moderator for this event. I'm so excited to be here hosting, sponsored by Pivotree and Spryker. In today's rapidly evolving automotive and heavy-duty truck landscape, the convergence of digital innovation and e-commerce is revolutionizing the consumer journey from OEMs to aftermarket services. During today's webinar, we'll delve into the strategies and technologies driving digital innovation in automotive and heavy-duty with a focus on simplifying the consumer journey and delivering unparalleled experiences. Now, before we get started, I'd like to address some housekeeping items. As part of the webinar, we will have a live Q&A session. We will address some questions during the last portion of the event. To improve the chances of your question being answered, don't wait until the end of the event to submit them. Ask questions as you think of them. Simply type your question into the Ask a Question box, then click the Submit button. This webinar is being recorded, and it will be available on demand for you to view. We encourage you to direct coworkers to the recorded presentation. Tomorrow, you'll receive an email with a link to the recording, and it will be posted on Aftermarket News, Counterman, and Fleet Equipment websites. Within this webinar software, you will have the ability to open, close, and resize different elements on your screen. To make a window larger or smaller, grab a corner of the window and drag it. You can also make some windows full screen by clicking the Maximize button in the upper right-hand corner of that window. If you want to receive a certificate of attendance, click on the graduation hat icon within the black toolbar on the left side of your computer screen. In the same toolbar, you'll also find icons to share the webinar by email or on social media. If you're viewing from a mobile device, you need to click the 4 dots menu in the upper right corner of the screen to view the different icons. Now, your feedback makes our events better. Please click the survey icon to leave your comments about today's topic and presenters. The survey will also appear in the middle of your screen toward the end of the event. If you need help at any point during the webinar, send us a message through the Ask a Question box. And finally, if the slides stop advancing or you're having problems with the audio, try pressing the F5 key at the top of your keyboard or Command R if you're on a Mac. It will refresh the webinar console on your screen. Now, we have a great webinar in store for you today. Not only do we have Sam Russo, Pivotree's Automotive and Heavy-Duty Aftermarket Practice Director in the house. Anyone who knows Sam feels the passion she has for the business. We are also absolutely thrilled to have 2 auto industry experts joining us. Niko Wilsmann, Global Head of Solution Engineering for Automotive at Spryker. Thank you, Niko. We're excited to have you here representing one of Pivotree's most important partners, and Nils Radsak with his vast consulting and industry experience in the automotive sector. He joins us from Konekta Consulting. Good day, team, and welcome to all those who've joined us live or on demand for this webinar. The Spryker Pivotree connection has been described to me like this. Spryker is the commerce supercar. It's equipped to make your commerce engine fly. Now, Pivotree is the pit crew. They build, customize, and run commerce ecosystems for winning B2B customers. Sounds like a pretty great combo, and one we're excited to hear more about. I'd like to hand it over to Sam, Niko, and Nils to introduce themselves.
Thanks, Emma. I'm Sam Russo. For those that don't know me, I have 18 years in the automotive world. I should clarify on this call. I have 18 years in the automotive aftermarket world. I started out as an enthusiast here in Atlanta, Georgia, and was lucky enough to turn it into a career. And I've spent the last 8 years heavily on the product data side, working for a manufacturer here in Atlanta, as well as 2 major retailers and a third-party data solution for major motor oil. My husband also owns a performance shop here in the Atlanta area, which has basically led me here to be head of industry at Pivotree for the automotive and heavy-duty customers we help with digital transformations. I am also part of AutoCare's Technology Standards Committee, the ACPN Leadership Committee, and also MEMA's Business Technology Council. I swear I say all of that, and that I live and breathe automotive, both in my personal life and my professional life.
Nice. Yeah, I can agree, Sam. Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. I, by the way, like the metaphor of Spryker and Pivotree, so I would underline that definitely. Yeah, so hello from my side. I'm Niko. I'm leading solution engineering for automotive globally at Spryker. With the company 6 years already, originally from Munich, Germany, but now based in Spain. Worked in multiple IT roles before, so kind of the tech perspective here, but hopefully also with some business context. Yeah, starting e-commerce, doing e-commerce already 1999. I guess I built my first web shop in 2001, and yeah, right now happy to bring all of that experience together under one umbrella of Spryker, and especially focusing on what's next in e-commerce for automotive. Yeah, thanks again for having me. Over to you, Nils.
Yeah, hello everybody. A big hi from Sao Paulo, Brazil. As you hear from my accent, I'm a German native and I'm a petrolhead. And I started early in my career with a focus on automotive. Starting in the consulting area, I switched then afterwards to the customer side, to the Volkswagen Group for more than a decade in different positions. And latest, I was there the CIO and CDO for the brand Audi in Brazil, Latin America. In 2022, I founded Konekta, so Konekta Consulting, as you see below my name, a consulting company with a focus on digital transformation and digital advisory. Yeah, so very happy to join this amazing group, and yeah, looking forward for a super great webinar here.
All right, well, let's start with a little bit of context. Can we talk about who the players are in this ecosystem, what their levels of digital maturity are about, and a little bit about their key challenges? But first, let's do a quick poll so we know who the audience is today. So audience, are you a manufacturer? Do you work in the aftermarket with a dealership, automotive, heavy duty, repair, retail, or other? All right, we're seeing lots of aftermarket people here.
That's great. I guess we chose the right topic.
Quite a few manufacturers too.
We would have had a leverage, Nils, if it was all OE. Percentages are looking good. We got a lot of people participating.
Yeah, we're hearing back from quite a few people here.
And we've got a vast majority of all the different sectors.
All right, let's hand it over to Sam to get things started.
Yeah. 1 second. All right. I'm sure you guys can recognize this. Well, I say that. I live in too much automotive world. So if you don't recognize the picture in the background, I'm going to touch on it for a minute. But one of the awesome things that I've seen is through competition comes innovation. And the automotive industry boasts a rich history of spanning over 130 years now. And one thing that's characterized this industry is the relentless innovation as manufacturers vie to always create the fastest and most innovative vehicles on the market. And one of the most iconic tales that I love is the competitive spirit of Ford versus Ferrari saga. This, if you've seen the movie's great, but this is a historic rivalry. Not only captivated audiences, but also spurred a lot of groundbreaking advancements in automotive engineering, pushing the boundaries of speed. My husband alone owns a 2016 Ford GT350, and it looks very much like a race car. It's a street legal race car, but it is very much a race car. And I love that Ford. So this type of rivalry really exemplifies a true co-opetition story where intense competition between Ford and Ferrari ultimately led to mutual benefits in technology leaps that shaped the industry. Even now, this was like, almost more than 50 years ago, and it's still a story to be told. So in today's landscape, it's evolving once again. The emergence of software-driven vehicles, the artificial intelligence, and a shift in consumer preferences has really leaned towards digital channels, and it's reshaping our automotive sector. We can all agree that the year of 2020 marked a pivotal moment, accelerating digital innovation. In the year of 2020, we had to decide to pivot. We were deemed essential and we had to pivot. So a lot of the industry shoved 10 years of innovation that we should have been doing into 1 year. And the automotive industry, which had been gradually embracing digital channels, suddenly found ourselves propelled forward to adapt rapidly to ultimately to service our competitors, or to service our consumers, but also to weed out the competitors, right? And in the past 4 years alone, more change has occurred in consumer behavior and retail dynamics than in any of the previous 3 decades combined. So just as Ford and Ferrari has pushed each other to innovate decades ago, today's automotive leaders are navigating in a new era defined by technology and digital transformation. The legacy of past rivalry reminds me, anyway, that competition drives innovation, and pushing us to continually reimagine the future of mobility and how our consumers want to experience mobility is an ever-evolving industry, and we're right in the thick of it. I think we're going to go future. Yep, future of car technology. You guys recognize some of these. We touched on this from an article. This is where some of the technology that people are really focused on right now, which is heads-up window display. That one's pretty. If you don't know that one, I'll just touch on it really fast. But heads-up window display is where they're displaying their traditional gearbox or the dials that you would usually look down on, and they're putting it up so that your eyes stay constantly on the road. It's a safety issue, but also it's kind of cool to see. Driverless technology, we all understand this. We want to get in the car and be able to have it take us from A to B, get to work safely and on time. Augmented reality, this one's still very magical and mysterious. Connection, I will come back to that one. But electric batteries, we get that one. Everything's going electric or hybrid. We're doing those battery electric vehicles. You guys can see them on your morning commutes. And then regenerative braking. This one's really cool. It's taking the natural tendency of us to brake. So you hit your brakes a lot, whether you're going fast or in bumper-to-bumper traffic, and leveraging that friction that causes between your rotor and your brakes, and helping that re-energize your battery. So what I really want to tee up here is connection. So these new vehicles are really giving off like millions of data points. We're in a opportunity here that these vehicles are really talking to us through data and through connection. They have the opportunity to connect with not only their vehicle owners, but with your digital phones, as well as with your manufacturers, with your dealerships, with your service providers. Honestly, in my mind, it's endless of the things that they could be connected to. To steal this from Niko, is the word that connection is how these iPhones are basically iPhones on 4 wheels. They can really transform how we service these vehicles and how you as a consumer engage with your vehicle. And that's really where I want to stay on, is redefining how the vehicle owner interacts with their vehicle ownership. So I want to throw this up. It's a great diagram that AutoCare puts out. And just a small plug is the fact book did just get released from AutoCare. It is available to you. And this thing is like jam-packed with information around the industry. But real quick, looking at this is from the 2025 fact book. This is just US. I do want to highlight that these specs are just US, but it really covers the players. And so the overall industry is very large, very vast, and very different players and segments within the industry. So you have light duty, you have medium heavy duty, and where do they play and how do they play together? Then you have part manufacturers. Then the part manufacturers have to sell parts. So you have retailers. Then you have independent repair, and you also have the wholesale traditional DCs. You have WDs and all of this to essentially get parts between B2B and B2C.
Yeah, totally agree to that. And yeah, so looking, or kind of in my perspective, having the glasses of the commerce and user journey perspective in the whole digital transformation, or also transaction business, we also see that the whole auto industry is kind of exploding in growth, and then the lines of distinction between OEMs and aftermarkets are becoming less clear. In fact, they need to be more unified and connected, or united in that perspective, because in the end, customers expect a seamless customer experience, and therefore we need to put the customers or ourselves as customers in the driver's seat of kind of the whole order journey, right? To look at the opportunities we can leverage to better meet those changing expectations, and then also how to really focus on the kind of digitization of those flows. From our side, that's a big shift. I mean, we talk with a lot of manufacturers, OEMs, also the aftermarket, the after-sale kind of enterprises, and that's a big shift already, right? Especially in that digital mindset. So especially, or for example, OEMs now need also to work like, or have more like that tech company mindset, where you guys, so part of the audience, also all of a sudden need to focus on software updates, data analytics, cybersecurity, and so on, right? And then also kind of invest in the digital infrastructure to also forge partnerships with other tech companies to kind of stay competitive. And what we see right now, that's a big shift. And then also when we, as already said, put the customer first, we also kind of look at the question, how can we make that seamless customer experience really possible? I will zoom in a bit later what that actually means for the digital landscape and the underlying systems and the architecture. As I said, I'm the tech guy here. But in general, I believe that also tech, the architecture, IT, all of them need to become strategic partners to support businesses and that use case driven decisions, right? It's not anymore kind of happening that the technical feasibility rules, or what is easier to accomplish. When you really want to put the customer first, you kind of need to check what is kind of the current development and where you can apply, adapt to, and then bring in another mindset, which is acting on speed, adaptability, and really ensuring the capability to roll out at scale, right? So that's the key that we see from a commerce-driven perspective, and also the challenges or kind of the expectations that our future customers, the OEMs after sales, bring to us, and we discuss with them how to make that happen. Yeah.
Great, Niko. Yeah, thank you. Switching from my side right now, from the OEM's perspective, like more the passenger cars view, maybe the key challenges I would tackle here with, you can see it on the slide right now, with the Tracy Chapman song Fast Car, and her question in this song about, is it fast enough to fly away, so that we can fly away? And the short answer is actually surely not. So cars are definitely becoming faster every decade. Like Sam said, Ferrari against Ford push themselves. They're getting faster, but the industry itself is not really transforming fast enough. The automotive industry is currently in a really transformational peak, and better said, maybe it's in the transformation within the transformation, I call it. So it seems that the industry does not stop changing, especially for the Western world. So China here is pushing fast as well, but nevertheless, so there's a little bit different approach. We can maybe add on this afterwards as well. So some topics here, the key challenge that I can see first is electrification. So it will evolve in the next decade. So what we can see currently is in the Western world for sure, that it's going a little bit bending back to the gasoline cars again. So that is a big shift, and this is as well changing maybe business models. How will mobility play a role for the next generation, and or for the existing ones even? So I don't have a car anymore. I'm just driving by Uber. So that is short, maybe commercial here. So how do we sell, and how does the selling and buyer channel looks like in the future as well? So we come to this for sure as well afterwards. Will the dealers keep an important role in this equation. So the customer journey will be definitely unified, my point of view. So the dealer, from my perspective, will play a bigger role. Before the pandemic, I thought a little bit different. Right now, I think it's a really unified commerce, actually, in that case, for example, that you really switch offline and online in each of the stages of the customer journey. Yeah. Then how does SDVs, so software-defined vehicles, impact society, and with all its possible breakthroughs and downfalls? I think that is important as well. And I think there as well new players coming in. So there are a lot of more topics that we can address here. So what is for me a really, really sure? So sure is one thing for me. Embrace change effectively. I think that is really important. And as Sam mentioned before, the automotive industry getting bigger and more complex, and thus the whole entire ecosystem will grow and evolve. So new players will step in, additional to the existing ones, so the OEM suppliers independent, or the participants that we have currently in here, but there are new players coming in. So the automotive industry will grow vertically. And this verticalization brings me to the conclusion that the industry needs technology advanced solutions that can cope with this such fast-paced changing world. And this is, for me, what is really this technology look like in the future? It should be modular, it should be flexible, and would provide operational freedom. Yeah? And if you look, for example, on sales and after sales, maybe shortly on the sales, on the vehicle sales perspective, corporate pushed here contactless online sales. But 100%, these online sales are not established in the industry yet and will not be, my point of view. So the false agency model, what means actually that the dealer will take part in it. If it's only a commission, that's one part, but maybe there are different equations in there. For example, you cannot provide a customer experience without physical touch points, like, for example, test drive and trade-ins and so on. And maybe we come to that point later as well. But nevertheless, online sales is one topic, and discussing between along the customer journey. But Sam, do you have some words on aftermarket as well?
Of course, I have some words on the aftermarket, Nils. But for those on the call, that because I saw that like almost 50% of you are aftermarket, these are just some challenges you may relate to, and definitely not all challenges. So we just queued up some of the top 6, which is findability, difficulty locating and accessing necessary information to find the part that you need. Supply chain, we all felt this in 2020, disruptions, inefficiency, and sourcing parts, but also getting those parts to us at the right time. There's also a vast digital maturity, which I'll touch on. Interoperability, and when I say interoperability in this one, it's challenges in ensuring seamless integration and communication between the manufacturers, the part distributors, the retailers, the service, and their customers. So we're going to really strive on the word customer in this webinar. Customer centricity, struggles in meeting the evolving customer and providing personalized experiences for those customers, whether it's B2B or whether it's B2C. And let's face it, we are literally, I think, second, if not the highest return rate, whether it's just from not getting the right part, not being able to find the right part, ordering from multiple people to see who gets it to you faster. Sorry, that is a thing. Or we also suffer really heavily from return fraud, where if you don't know about return fraud, it's where we have a whole initiative where you check the box because what's in the box may not actually be what got shipped out. Could be a used part, could be a brick, could be something else. One thing I can tell you being here at Pivotree for almost a year is this whole industry is at various stages in digital maturity. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you've heard me talk about this. Many rely heavily on manual ordering through phone calls, paper catalogs still today. I know it sounds crazy. Some are in the middle where they are embracing a digital transformation in their business. They have an e-commerce site maybe, or even like a digital catalog. Then you have like the players in the aftermarket who are now striving for that technology connectivity. Those are the ones that are more mature in their digital maturity. They're the ones that you're watching move to the cloud. They're building microservices. They're embracing how they can leverage AI. So the question becomes, how do we stay as an industry that is fragmented, but how do we stay unified around the customer experience? We know the industry as a whole like, and when I say industry, I mean both aftermarket and OEM, is fragmented across when it comes to digital maturity. Being ready to leverage the data that's coming off these cars, that is like 1 to 5 million data points per hour, depending on the vehicle's usage and the number of systems active at one point, is difficult to even fathom when our industry is so fragmented in our digital technology. I have this thing where I've heard it and I've said it, is while the OEMs are about 10 years ahead of the automotive aftermarket, we're still playing catch up to digital channel selling, while the heavy duty industry is about 10 years behind automotive aftermarket. I don't have facts on that. I just hear, this is what I hear. The new vehicles are only going to be more software driven. And so even as the average age of the vehicle on the road keeps creeping higher, and we all know that it's pushing 12 plus years is the average for the vehicle on the road, then you have to add in right to repair. And if you don't know what right to repair is, everything I'm saying right now really hinders on right to repair. And ultimately what that's all about is allowing access to certain data that's coming off these vehicles to be able to service these vehicles. And you're really looking at an interesting revolution, which really gets me excited, because not only are we talking about product data to be able to get the right part to the right place at the right time with our product and e-commerce, but we're also talking about these vehicles that can now help us do, if we can handle the data that's coming off these vehicles, you're now looking at getting the right part, the right time, at the right place ahead of time. And many consumers don't even know that that's really hindering on this whole thing that's going on in Washington. It's worldwide. It's not just here in North America. So I do encourage you to reach out, and I'll get off my soapbox after this, but really to Google what right to repair is and the impact that it has on the vehicles that are coming out today. I'm going to pass it off to Nils because I know he's going to counter me.
Not really, not really, not really. But yeah, digital maturity. I think it's really interesting what you mentioned as well, and I have a perspective on that as well. My last 5 years actually experience showing me that some different perspectives can be maybe a little bit provocative here right now. Yeah, so the OEMs on the passenger car side, for example, they have been innovative since decades, but they fail. My point of view, and that's really provocative, I know. But they have failed really due to many internal and external factors. And then it's business model switch, and they cannot cope with it. They're too big, and all that stuff. Yeah. Again, here, principally on the western part of the world. So Chinese are doing it a little bit differently. Yeah. So that's why they are in a different stake, but they are really on a focus on specific business models. And maybe afterwards we can catch on that. If not, we are blowing up our webinar here on a topic. We're not talking about China today. So the suppliers. My point is, some are right in the middle, so that's why I agree. But their impact somehow is lacking, and the new players that coming in, for example, an Apple or Google, or whoever it is, the big tech giants, their trouble as well. Their market shares currently. Heavy duty OEMs, I think they are keeping up to transform really themselves rapidly, and I see this really positive. And they get really their digital transformation vision right, they can be ranked really soon the first one in this ecosystem. Yeah. But right now the question for me is more, Sam, how to accelerate right now your digital transformation and be really future ready and proven. Yeah. And there I'm working with some of the companies as well in the automotive sector through all the tiers actually, especially as well the OEMs for sure. And they're really on the leading edge of the digital transformation currently. And the question is then often, what technology serves me right? And here the answer is often from my side. So customer or customer experience projects don't put in global templates. You can do it, but be really cautious in terms of choosing the technology right. Yeah. And one software does not serve you along the whole customer journey. I did it once. It was not really working fine. Why not sticking to one technology that is really fitting perfectly on that phase on your customer journey and that hits the gaps? And integration is not the key point anymore. So what is the solution then? I have 3 points here. The first one is best of breed. Right now, people in the call or in the webinar currently saying, oh, he coming back here with best of breed approach. This is 5 years or 10 or 15 years ago. It's switching every time constantly. It's actually not. So choose your software according to the customer and internal business model needs. And don't forget your entire digital transformation vision that is set before. So you might invest twice or triple if you change. So adapt and create new digital models perfectly with the technology you choose from. And there are vast possibilities on the market there. Again, the second point, modularity. So it comes into play to create really flexibility and this operational freedom that I mentioned before. So pivot business models is only possible if you have a modular technology stack. How does it look like? Maybe Niko can afterwards tell us a little bit more about it. The automotive industry as well demands, my point of view, that is the third point, marketplace capabilities. That for me is a trend because it's getting bigger and bigger. The ecosystem is really increasing vertically. Let me see, for example, electrification. You have almost right now different players in the market, like chemistry industries, that were never done before. The ecosystem is growing. So you have to have somehow an ecosystem that you can organize and operate by yourself, and you gather as well data then. So what you said before, Sam, I agree 100%. So the IoT, the car itself could be a data object, but as well, even your business model can be created to gather more data, and then you can drive decisions effectively. So maybe Niko, you can go a little bit deeper into it and explain us a little bit from an e-commerce product vision, what that means.
Yeah, thanks for the intro. Yeah, and I guess best of breed is maybe underwhelming for some of us, but I would say not really, because if you are able to evaluate really the best solution out of each domain, like the CRM, the ERP, the PIM, the CMS, the digital experience platform, analytics, and also the commerce system, so kind of the solution that kind of drives or kind of translates the internal business view with the external business view of the customer, then you really are in the right place, right? Because a one-fits-all solution is not existing. It never really was. And if the promise it would be out there to say everything works flawless and seamlessly, it's a bit hard to believe because, again, rather pick and choose a software which is kind of focusing, being the best in one of those breeds. And then also enabling you to kind of be the best to disrupt the market, right? Maybe disruption is a bit too ambitious sometimes, but in the end, you need to be flexible. And that's exactly what we also kind of see as the biggest challenge, but also as the biggest opportunity. Because as you see here right now, I mean, there are already multiple different business models out there, the classic B2C, the traditional B2B business, but right now also, when we kind of look from the end-to-end customer journey, you buy a vehicle or kind of a heavy-duty truck, and then you also have the spare parts business, the services, the kind of the whole parts. Maybe in the future you also introduce IoT to make your kind of products smart, so that they become more proactively and not being repaired after they kind of have an issue, right? And in that case, these are all the channels that you want to digitalize step by step. And also that takes into account that it's not only the OEM or the automotive, it's the after sales and the customer. You also have kind of that intermediate, so the wholesaler, the distributors, the retailers, the marketplace. Digitally, you also have the garages and other parties which are also part of that whole digitalization game, right? To then also foster into the different business models, right? So it's a B2C, B2B. But again, if we look at what the customer really expects, the customer looks kind of in a laid-back B2Me motion, right? So initially I said, let's put the customer in the driver's seat, and the customer expects a B2Me experience, right? So he doesn't care if it's B2B and so on. So if we kind of translate it into the whole commerce world, right? We see right now the trend of the marketplace, right? I guess all of us agree that the term marketplace comes from the Amazon and so on of the world. It has not really, I mean, yes and no to do with that, right? So yes, it's a marketplace where many different parties sell services or offer products, right? In our case, in the B2B motion, it's the OEM providing the products, in the after sales, also providing the spare parts. maybe they enriched that products with also products that kind of leverage and even make the whole assortment bigger, right? So then you introduce a third-party seller to your platform. This is already a marketplace, right? But also introducing the service fulfillment guys, the garages who are actually then also fulfilling the services. These can also be parts of the whole marketplace motion, where then you have a mix of products and services, or in that case, the OEM sells one part of the products, where then the third parties sell the other parts, spare parts, and so on. But for the customer, it's a mixed kind of basket, which he wants to check out, and then the system, in a kind of a really order split perspective, then provides the fulfillment experience. And for that, really, we see what kind of we learned out of the B2C experience, which then is a marketplace, right? And that's kind of the one thing that we see super crucial in the whole automotive industry, that's missing link, introducing also the third parties into the whole platform game, but owning the platform as the operator, in that case, the OEM or the after sales provider, owning that platform, introducing the third parties also to be onboarded on your platform really makes a difference, because then you can kind of step by step introduce those use cases, right? And that should be the goal. And for that, I definitely agree to what Nils said. That's the best of breed. But then also putting it one step further, the marketplace is the one trending topic from a platform perspective that we see. Yeah.
Yeah, and we all know that the cars that we drive are changing. Everything is digital inside them. I get notified from the dealer or even from my car when it's time for a service call. And it's amazing. I see loads of potential from the end consumer's perspective, but I also feel that this ecosystem is competitive and complex, as well as fragmented in some ways. And maybe they don't always get it right when it comes to the end consumer. So you've recently published 2 white papers, both of which will soon be hot off the press and will be sent to webinar attendees. In these, you cover the importance of reimagining consumer experience in the automotive and heavy-duty industries, the impact of traditional business models, and the need for businesses in this industry to adapt. And then how to do that from a digital transformation perspective. So let's unpack this concept of reimagining consumer experience.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, as Sam already said, the vehicles today are not normal vehicles anymore. They're more like the computers, right? There's even the expression of the Apple iPhone on 4 wheels, as you mentioned. As vehicles right now also deliver multi-million lines of codes nowadays, right? So that's kind of the new normal, right? Software-defined vehicles, you can have updates on the fly. You can even book updates on the fly. You don't need to kind of purchase them right away. You have the subscription models and so on. I mean, that's kind of the situation in which we are in, right? That's the challenges in many different areas, but that's kind of the current perspective, yeah. And I guess then also a lot of new business models come out of that, right? So one of them might be then predictive maintenance. I guess, Sam, you will dive into that as a next step. But one thing I wanted to bring in, because that's amount of data, whether we can kind of access it or not, is one thing, but also the question, what do we do with that data, right? So do we have the use cases which we can build on top of that millions of data which we have in seconds and so on? So that is one key. And then the second thing is, and I saw it also as many questions in the chat, the question of the usage of AI, right? So what can we really do with that data, and how can we leverage AI? And there's here really big potential in that. One of them, for example, might be the predictive maintenance, where we can leverage technologies such as AI.
Yeah, I mean, to stem off of what Niko is saying with the predictive maintenance, like we see it on this thing, which is the shift to digital buyer experience, predictive maintenance. And then I honestly see where the vehicles are at today and where they're going is being able to do all of this from your car. Not only be able to do it from your phone, but to also be able to just do it from your car. So I think predictive maintenance is a big one. If you've heard me speak before, especially with my husband owning a shop, I'm a big proponent for this one. is when our vehicles tell us when something is failing, yes, that's existed for a while. You know, if your oil is low, you know, if your engine light's on, it's probably not a good thing, but you don't know why your engine light is on or what is happening with that. And with the amount of sensors on the vehicles today, this really can come into play to not only keep you on the road, but ensure that you aren't stranded, which is huge when it comes to talking about the heavy duty industry, because I've said this, like when our car or like when like our, you know, regular consumer, like when I walk out and my car doesn't start, it's usually at the worst moment, at the worst time when I'm trying to get my daughter to school, I'm going on vacation. It's not the best time. But one thing I will say is when the commercial vehicle industry is down, it's a rippling effect, because now your vehicle being down is an inconvenience to you. A truck going down is not only an inconvenience to that fleet, but now you're not getting your Amazon package that you order, and that impacts hundreds. I also hear a big proponent for us is to take the vehicle and make it an ecosystem, which I touched on right when I came out here hot, is being able to schedule maintenance, order parts, speak with an AI-driven troubleshooting on all streamlines the whole entire vehicle ownership experience. Today, like I said, like if my vehicle doesn't start, the first thing I do is pick up my phone, and I have to go through multiple different channels, whether it's me trying to guess what's wrong with my car based off the noise. Then once I figure it out, then I have to go to multiple websites to see if they have the part. If I'm a DIYer, then I'm trying to find the part, who can get it to me, who can I go pick it up to from right now. If I'm a do it for me, which means I don't want to work on my car in my driveway, then in all honesty, majority of the time today it's resulting in you picking up the phone and calling shops around you to see if they have time to take you in. Now, that's a huge frustration. And now you've lost hours out of your day. And not only are you stressed, but you don't know what's going on. So I'm a big proponent. AI is one of those things. I'm not saying that AI can replace somebody who really knows about a vehicle, but what it can do, there are large language models out there that are focused on automotive. What it can do is let your consumers feel that they are talking to a senior tech. So imagine if you were in your car and it's making a noise, instead of being like, man, that noise is really annoying. What if you just said, hey, whatever we want to call it. I'll just say, hey, car. I'm not very creative off the fly right now. Hey, car, my car is making a noise when I come to a stop on the front driver's side. Now, if you Google that, you're going to get a lot of different things. It's like saying you have a headache and you get on WebMD and it tells you you're dying. But if you have a large language model that's trained in automotive, it will ask you some prompting questions. It will say, do you hear it when you're hitting your brake as you're coming to a stop? And you say, yes. Do you hear it when you hit the brake really hard? You're going to say, yes. And then it's going to say, it's not going to diagnose it, but what it's going to say is it's probably your brakes and probably your rotors. Would you like to schedule time with your local service provider? And then you could just be like, yes, car, I would love to schedule time. And then it prompts up on the screen, because it's all the vehicles are on screens, or on your windshield. We talked about that one earlier. And it gives you a list of shops that could take you in, and you can schedule it on your time before it's a problem. Imagine how less stressful that is to own a vehicle if you can just have that interaction. And that is one thing that AI can do. I've been speaking about it since the beginning of the year so that other people listen to me and not just my husband, because he's like, yes, I get it, but he's not the person I should be talking to. So that is where I see generative AI playing in this ecosystem of this vision that Niko and Nils have of this streamlined eliminating the interoperability and creating that whole connective ecosystem to create the customer focus and make it easier on the customer when it comes to owning, buying, and maintaining a vehicle.
All right, Sam, let's dive deep into the big use case, the heavy duty industry, and what can you tell us about the customer pain points? So what is causing customers a ton of frustration?
So my customer, so we all have different definitions of customer. So in this one, it has been great. It's been a great ride. I've been with Pivotree for almost a year now. And the best part of it, honestly, has probably been the heavy duty industry. It's a new love of mine. I've worked in the aftermarket, obviously, for a couple of years, and then also in performance. but heavy duty is great. So we talk about how the automotive industry is still struggling to master online selling. I see a lot of you are like automotive aftermarket and leveraging product data for our consumers to make sure they get the right part, the right place, the right time, right? The heavy duty industry is just entering into this world of digital channel selling. One of the major retailers who's within the heavy duty space has e-com sites that are only being less than 5 years old. And I mean, compared to the major e-com Goliaths that we all order from on a regular, that e-commerce channel is an infant. And I've got to say, to really talk to these guys in the past almost year, they all have different business models. The heavy duty industry has a different way of how they like to play. But the one thing that I can tell you in talking to all of them is they all have almost the same pain point. And that pain point is getting complete and quality product data for the products necessary to maintain the vehicle fleets and be able to sell these products digitally. These guys rely a lot on phone calls. They rely a lot on just knowing what the part number is. You don't even know what it is. You go in and you say, hey, I need one of these. And the guy in the back's just like, oh, that's part number 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I can't plug that guy into a computer and pull that data. And the impact of 2020 is one of the things that's driving this shift to digital channel even more is like we've got to have product data to be able to sell these products. And I know we've mentioned 2020, but it's not only the impact of what that year did to us, it's also looking at who's in the driver's seat. And I mean all the puns intended, right? Is when it comes to shopping today, it's millennials and the Gen Zers that are making those decisions. And now we're looking behind us and Gen Alpha is coming up quickly. My daughter is an Alpha and we function from our phones and from our tablets. So God forbid you tell a millennial to call somebody because I'm going to be like, I'm not doing that. Where can I order it online? Because I don't want to make a phone call.
So let's talk about data, which you all just touched upon. I think we can all agree that having complete, comprehensive data feeding the commerce and supply chain engines is absolutely critical to ensuring a smooth customer experience. So Sam, what's going on in the heavy duty market?
So I touched on this a little bit, but I'm just going to say it again, is product information is not there. Let's just do it plain and simple. All the heavy duty people on here are probably like, amen, yes, you're right. So it's interesting there. It's like from what I hear from them is like some of the major retailers that are in that space. And when I say retailer, I mean like retailer for B2B, some of them are B2C, and then also the buying groups. So we all know the major buying groups within heavy duty, and they can't get bare minimum data, much less an image. So they're struggling just to get part number, product description, and pricing to sell products. It's amazing. Some of it is due to the data is just not there because they weren't functioning that way. So there's a time factor there to get the data and get it into a digital format, whether that's Excel or not. Some of it is viewed as proprietary, like it's a secret sauce to have these data points. I'm not really sure. All I want to do is sell more products and make more money, and better data sells more products. So I'm not really sure what that is. But there's also the lack of adoption of digital channel selling. So the lack of relevant product data, resistance to change to existing business models. To tell these guys who have been behind the counter for 30 or more years to now go to a computer or a tablet when they're like, well, I just have this relationship. Everything's built off of face-to-face relationships. To just order online is a little bit of a change management task to get them on board. And then it's the importance of that personalization. Is not every consumer or every customer is the same. A B2B customer is going to be very different in how you approach them, how their digital channel looks, how they interact with it, than a B2C customer. They are very different, but back to like Niko and Nils, the marketplace mentality and e-commerce selling, the one thing that you can do with that once you get to that digital is you can create the gates to where you log in under personas and you can create that unique experience depending on how many other customers you have. But one thing I have to say, and then I will literally pass it on, is you cannot do any of this without the data being there. It's just, if the data doesn't exist, you cannot create this.
Great, yeah. Sam, I agree 100% with your comments. I will touch base on some of them right now. If you see, for example, the picture right now, or the topics that I wanted to focus on right now in digital commerce, what are really the use cases here? So we have here maybe 5 use cases we put out right now. We have a lot of more, but platform consolidation, I think you do not need to talk a lot about this. Customer portals and marketplaces. Then the in-vehicle commerce, and I think in-vehicle, we mentioned it several times today, and right now from the customer voice, right now from my perspective, in-vehicle every time is pretty political as well. So I have to address this here as well, so that the audience are not thinking, oh, that is super easy to tackle, but you receive a lot of input here, but you have to be really a strong relationship to the OEM, for example, to gather this information, because that is the holy grail of the OEMs is actually the in-car topics or the connected services. You know? So that is important to add here. Then the aftermarket solutions, I think they are pretty important to add here, because this is a really complex business model. And yeah, really like mentioned by Sam as well, the right place, right part ahead of time. I think that is important to mention. So if you can switch, exactly. So from my vision, what does that mean in terms of a transactional business model, or even talking a little bit more than commerce? It's sophisticated commerce. And if you have a look on sophisticated commerce and you drill it down, you can really mention here several topics. We have no idea actually what the future holds. And I think in that aspect, what I understood is that Spryker supports here with this modular PaaS solution. What it means directly, Niko will mention maybe afterwards, after my topic here. And Spryker is actually designed to pivot, what we mentioned before as well. So you can accelerate your business and your business models. And I had a question as well, so right now, what business models you're referring to, for example. And then you can see on the left upper hand, it's the enterprise B2B2C. That is one business model. All this B2B and all that stuff Niko mentioned before, actually you want to have a B2Me experience, right? As every time only just put a 1B in there, 1D in there, and you come to a business model. But the B2B2C business model is super complex to establish. And then you create this ecosystem. So you have, for example, an OEM that has its retailers with all the sellers in, and at the final point, you have your customers as well. And they interact on this ecosystem by themselves. And that makes it more complex. We come to that point after, because this is how it tackled the marketplace topic. Yeah. And the marketplace topic is really important to add as well some points here. And I address some points that Sam already mentioned as well, because that is super in line with this marketplace capability again. What are the 4 success factor points for a good marketplace implementation on scale? The first one is the more attractive and or bigger the ecosystem is, the more productive is the marketplace. That's the first one. The second one, you have to have your seller experience right. Set up your sellers for success. That means the onboarding should be easy. The catalog monitoring and controlling and all that stuff should be really user-friendly from the seller perspective. And for sure as well, if you're talking about the seller, you have to have your buyer experience right as well, with all its UX and UI topics that you have to mention as well. And Pivotree is a good partner in the US. And fourth, really important, and that is what Sam is mentioning about, is the consistent and integrated product of information. So this is really a must for success. Then the IoT, we talked about it. Okay, this is IoT commerce, everything that comes out of the vehicle, and the unified commerce we addressed before as well. So really get your offline and online story connected and really serve the customer with the best customer experience. I think these are the trigger points that I need to mention here. And maybe one point about data again. So if you have set up this ecosystem, you can gather, as I said before, not only the data from the car itself, you can really leverage the data from all of these touch points in this ecosystem that is driven by sophisticated commerce. And then you can, for example, use this data for better sales planning. You know your price points of your customers or even of your competitors. If you sell on your marketplace, for example, not proprietary parts, that is a super big win as well for our aftermarket business here. Okay, maybe Niko, give us a little bit more insight maybe on PaaS and what I mentioned before.
Yeah. I will keep it short because we don't have so much time, and I see we have many questions, so maybe we need to make a follow-up session. Yeah, but just to kind of bring it together from again tech perspective. I mean, there are many buzzwords out there like composable commerce, packaged business capabilities, and so on. I guess we come, so Spryker, we come from a world where modularity is kind of in our DNA, and where we also wanted to support performance as a key promise within our technology, right? The performance or more the scalability right now is even more important. We have customers with millions and billions of products, prices, and so on in their platform. And that only goes when you give the customers the ability to own the platform, the application, right? But on the other side, as a kind of provider, as a vendor like Spryker is also providing the services surrounding that, right? So as you can see on the slide, there are 3 different nuances of that. We are not looking into on-premise because nobody wants that anymore. SaaS is also something like AI, sometimes kind of the magic wand, but I also don't really believe in that. So it's maybe the middle which is needed that combines the scalability, the flexibility, but also kind of the ownership needed to really build what is needed. And that comes back to the modularity which we bring in, but then also that kind of platform as a service plus, so kind of that SaaS motion of providing a platform which is also customizable. As you can see, the logo, we also run on AWS, but that's kind of also in between perspective where we kind of summarize all of that. And then putting the marketplace part as one of our key capabilities for the auto industry on top of that, built in our platform and not kind of relying on an external solution for that. To me, that's already a really good fit, especially for the automotive parts industry. Yeah. I guess there are many more details we can discuss on a more detailed level. I saw very cool questions, so I guess we need to take a lot of them offline. That's I guess kind of the summary from an e-commerce digital perspective.
Thanks, Niko. And then on that one, I will take really quickly, just because a lot of people on this call probably don't know what Pivotree is, and that's fine because not many people know what Pivotree is. But to go back and to do full circle, we referred to at the beginning of this webinar, we referred to Spryker as the supercar. And if you've heard me speak before about Pivotree, is I compare Pivotree to the advantage of having an exceptional pit crew in F1 racing. In F1, if you guys follow F1, the vehicles are heavily regulated to ensure quality and safety on the track. While engineers may have minor tweaks, to make the gain a competitive edge, the components are largely the same. And so if you compare that to the digital transformation, components are largely the same. We need an e-commerce platform. We need a WMS. We need an IMS. We need an MDM or PIM. And if you don't know what any of those terms mean, go ahead and add me on LinkedIn and I'll be happy to tell you what those mean. So this analogy applies to companies in the business space. And so how do you stand out from your competition when we all kind of have the same components, or we're all working to those components, right? And in F1, the success of the team or the driver often hinges on the performance of the pit crew. And the fastest and most unified pit crew can be the deciding factor to winning the race. So similarly, in the competitive world of digital channel selling, I always like to compare Pivotree acts as that exceptional pit crew, helping industries win the race by optimizing and unifying components we all rely on. And here at Pivotree, we have massive expertise in digital e-commerce and even more so in data management, which, as I have already hinted at, is the foundation to any success in digital channel marketplace.
Thank you so much, Sam. So we've reached the top of the hour already, and we'll address a couple of audience questions. But if you need to drop off, we understand. Thank you so much for joining. But like I said, we do want to take a few questions. So in a few moments, we're going to begin the Q&A portion of the webinar. But before we do that, we would ask that people please complete the survey. Audience members, we need your feedback. And as a special incentive to complete the survey, we're offering a $10 Amazon gift card to 25 randomly selected people who complete today's survey. The survey will be appearing in the middle of your screen shortly. If you don't see it, you can launch it by going to the black toolbar on the left of your screen and clicking the survey icon. All right, so now with that, let's take some of our audience questions. The first question that we have is, how do you ensure that your digital solutions are designed with the customer's needs and convenience in mind?
Yeah, maybe Nils, do you want to take that?
That's a good question. But it's pulled out right now. Where is it right now? Do answer ready inbox.
Basically, how do you make sure your platforms are actually customer centric?
Yeah, the question is really good, and this is actually, we need a different webinar for that, I guess. It's a big question, but nevertheless, what I said before is the best of breed approach is for sure one topic that I refer to is really the go-to topic right now. My point of view, I know best of breed, it's a long time already out there, but what I consult my customers, for example, is really on each of the customer journey phases, you have really touch points that tackle this specific technology, especially for this topic. For example, incentive management, for example, service management or operations, digital marketing, CRM, or in that case, what we are talking today about e-commerce. Yeah? I'm not going here putting all the technologies out in this call. I think we have Spryker here on board. This is a really, really good solution in terms of the bunch of e-commerce. But there are a lot of things as well on the transformation and the digital transformation itself that you can connect to. So, and I think as well, Pivotree, and I'm supporting here as well for sure, is keen to get a little bit more into detail here. Yeah, I think hopefully this is roughly answered here, but it's a really big question and really important one. Thank you for that.
All right, we'll try to get through a couple more. So the next one is, what are some of the latest digital innovations that have significantly impacted the OEM and aftermarket industries?
Yeah, I guess I have many use cases out of our customer base at the top of my mind, but I guess sustainability would be one that I would like to pick and choose, right? So that, I mean, there are several use cases that can really innovate or kind of digitalize, but I guess also putting it even larger in terms of running into a sustainable use case like the circularity marketplace. So if you're also selling, kind of, you start with selling the new vehicle, but you end in kind of selling or making it, opening the platform so that the initial buyer of the vehicle can kind of sell the used truck. And also really circle kind of that whole buying journey. That would be one that I see coming in quite more often, right? And if you really started from A and ended with C, kind of selling the same used product to kind of give it back to the market, that's something. And customers build auction mechanisms, right? So things that we already know from eBay, but you put it also out of the B2C experience into B2B right now. This is something that really are initiatives that OEMs, for example, are doing, right? So opening the platform to their customers to, for example, sell used trucks or used products on their platform. Again, that goes back, the OEM owns the platform, that they're just opening and offering those services. And that's one thing I would like to pick out.
And this is probably the last question, unless we can squeeze one more in after that. I'm not sure. But why do you think the industry is so behind in digital selling?
You want me to take? I'll take that one.
Go ahead. I comment on that.
I mean, it's all speculative, but if I can see it, like if you look back and, we saw this digital bookseller hit the market at Y2K at the beginning of the 2000s, right? And if you put yourself in those shoes back then, like, you're just like, there's no way that this is going to impact me. How are you going to buy a car part or buy brakes for your vehicle without talking to somebody first? And it's just, it's like the same way of us like looking at the metaverse goggles. I see it. I can see the vision. I just can't see it clearly, right? But you can just see that those guys were just like, there's no way that this is going to impact us. And we let it go on and we let it go on. And we're like, it's not going to impact us. It's not going to impact us. And then all of a sudden, Amazon started selling more than just books. And then you got eBay selling car parts. You got Amazon selling car parts. You got Walmart selling car parts. And all of a sudden, the pandemic hits. And you're like, wait, I guess maybe I should have paid attention to this more. And that's where we've just kind of where we're at today, and we've sped up. And I think it was just we were really convinced that this was not going to impact our industry. And there are still things that you need in automotive tech to do to really, like I just gave that example earlier. It's like a doctor to really like diagnose your vehicle. But I think a lot of this is really, we've shown that it can go digital.
Absolutely. Okay, we're going to wrap up with one final question. So, what strategies can OEMs adopt to stay competitive and meet evolving consumer expectations in the digital age?
We know who's answering that one.
Is it gonna me? But it's again so macro. It's as thanks for the question. It's really good. But this is as well same thing. Yeah. What do you need to drive right now? I think there are separate building blocks again on top of what I said before. Yeah. But as well in terms of data. Yeah. Everybody in this call talked about data, and I focus a little bit more about data right now. I think before you talk about data and AI and all that stuff that is really impacting right now our society and as well as the industry, you have to have your enterprise architecture as well, right? Before you have data, you have to consolidate it. You have to have consistent basis. You have to connect these topics together. And I think this is really important. I think this is the core. A lot of people are not thinking about it because it's not looking good on LinkedIn. Yeah, but this is somehow the basement that you have to tidy up first. And then on that, you construct your house. That's what I say every time. So, and you can use really easy topics that you can leverage and accelerate this digital transformation as well. But the basement should be right before you build your pillars on top of it. If not, it's breakthrough. So this is one hint of many that I can advise here. Maybe Sam, Niko, if you want to comment on that as well.
I'm happy with it.
All right.
All right. Well, that will wrap up our Q&A session for today. We had lots of great questions. So I'd like to remind our audience that a recording of this webinar will be available on Aftermarket News, Counterman, and Fleet Equipment websites. So feel free to log on to view it again or encourage your colleagues to view it. Tomorrow, you'll receive an email that contains a link to the recording. This concludes our webinar. And we just want to remind you guys again about the 2 white sheets that are going to be published. And we thank you so much for your time and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much.